coming in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for June 12th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Epic is a better leaker than I'll ever be. And when is that Nintendo Direct? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jesse Don Cabeza Norris. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm exhausted. I didn't even fly anywhere. How are you doing?
I'm holding up. My voice is like coming in and out. We'll get through this, everybody. We're going to see what we can do here. But other than that, feeling pretty good. We went to Disney yesterday. I think it was that. I think that was yesterday. No, day before yesterday. I can't keep track of it anymore.
2 days, I think.
2 days ago. But then I traveled yesterday, so then I just kind of slept through all that day. And I'm feeling pretty good now. Happy to be home. It's weird, Jesse, how it's like the video game industry is either be at home in your basement by yourself or go out with everyone in the world. It's crazy how like we only have the two extremes, but it was a lot of fun.
Shockingly enough, it seems like half of now video game coverage is very sick.
Yeah,
Crazy how that happens.
Listen, I'm feeling great. So I think it was not Giant Bomb. That was the super spreader event. I totally 100% blame. We think who would be the funniest? I blame Digital Eclipse. It was all Micah. How dare he? Okay. Yes. I saw him walking around. He just didn't care out there talking about how bad vaccines are.
Gross. Whoa. Going full Aaron Rodgers.
That's right. He's the video game industry Aaron Rodgers. Please don't sue me, Micah. I'm just joking. Okay. How was it from your perspective? How was covering the event, talking about stuff? Was it exciting? I feel like the last couple of days, like Ubisoft, I'm still behind on. I don't think there was too many announcements, but they talked about games they already had announced. But I feel like I'm still catching up on stuff. How was it for you?
So Summer Game Fest itself was but I'm always in that realm of I know Jeff's not a platform. He can't control what he's going to get.
That's right.
He can't plan it out. It's, hey, we have this available. And then the smaller ones are like, hey, we'll pay you a ton of money. And so it's that mix. And then he sees some smaller things he likes. They get it all in. Show is fine. The pacing's never going to be what people just want, that constant playlist of AAA bangers, which you will only get essentially from a platform holder. Summer Game Fest, fine. Day of the Devs, really good. Had a lot of really interesting looking stuff. Like one of my favorite shows. Then Devolver did their thing. Not a ton of games, but really goddamn funny.
Yep. I actually didn't watch that one. They that was good again.
It might have been one of their funniest. It was subdued, very subdued weirdness instead of like over the top. Then a bunch of really like indies carried everything. If you are into smaller independent games, there was just like 300. There was a daunting amount to try and keep up with everything, but you will be able to find pretty much anything in any genre. Then we did a 6-hour podcast on friggin' Saturday, getting ready for the Xbox show, which of course was very good. I had been hearing repeatedly from people that work at Xbox that they were feeling real good. And then like Paris is like, yeah, they actually had even more. So I am excited now to get ready for Gamescom.
Apparently they're promising Paris they're going to have even more at Gamescom.
Yeah, and we are all going there as a company at Xbox Era. So I'm very excited. It'll be my first time out of the country.
Oh wow, that'll be great. That'll be a really good time then. Yeah, I thought that most of the Summer Game Fest, like the wider Summer Game Fest, was pretty good. I really happy with it for the most part. And it does help that you're right. The indies carried the show, and then it wasn't like a complete dearth of big games. Obviously, the Xbox show had a ton of big games in it that all looked pretty solid to at least interesting at like the very bottom. Like there was nothing I was like, well, this is a waste of my time, which is nice. I like, that's kind of like what my baseline is that I'm hoping for, is just make it feel like I'm going to be getting something out of spending my time watching these shows. And I definitely got that out of the Xbox show. We'll see how those games turn out. Of course, it's got a whole different thing than being entertained during a live show, right? Yeah.
It's like when you go back to the E3 of Dreams, it's like, man, those announcements were insane then.
Right. And I'm glad it was like that. Right. Yeah. But the games themselves different. Yeah. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Like, well, you had Final Fantasy VII Remake, really good. Last Guardian, pretty good. And then like Shenmue 3.
Yeah, Shenmue 3 is Shenmue 3. Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, Dan wanted me to do a bit where I just became the hat guy. And I was just going to wear my hat, my new hat that I got at Disneyland because I didn't want to get sunburned. But I realized I can't wear it with the headphones, so I'll show it off real quick to everybody. This is what I was walking around, really embarrassing everybody, looking like a dipshit. But I'm feeling it. I'm going to keep wearing it. Maybe I will become the hat guy. We'll see. All right, got my headphones back on now. There it is. I did get it. I think this was like the hats in the like right outside the Indiana Jones ride. So yes, I do think it's like Indiana Jones inspired.
But it's breathable.
Yes, it's got the mesh exactly. And yet it still stops the sun. So the best of both worlds. There we go. Got it out. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Final Fantasy IX Remake and more have seemingly leaked as part of a wild Epic Game Store leak. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. A new tool used to scrape info from the Epic Game Store may have just exposed tons of unannounced upcoming games, like a long-rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake and a new Turok. If accurate, the database listings could end up being the biggest batch of clues about new games since the infamous NVIDIA leak. EpicDB, which was shared on the gaming forum Reset Era on June 12th, let users search Epic Game Store listings, including entries that wouldn't normally appear on the front end of the digital storefront. Initial results for publishers like Square Enix and Rockstar Games revealed entries with code names for games that haven't been announced yet or don't currently have PC versions. Fans have been combing through the names and looking at corresponding data like cloud save file paths, file sizes, associated DLC, to speculate about what the mystery listings could be. One is called Momo and appears to be the long-rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake. That's because associated DLC listings describe things like Tetra Master Starter Pack and Thieves' Knives. There is also a separate listing for Skoboloff, which fans believe to be the PC port of Final Fantasy XVI. Other listings from other publishers also point to potential surprises. One entry called Simla under Rockstar Games could be the rumored PC port of Red Dead Redemption, giving a reportedly similar file size with the recent remaster of the game for consoles. Saber Interactive, meanwhile, appears to have a hidden Epic Games Store entry that simply reads, Turok. What could that be? Giving some fans hope that the Dino Hunting classic might finally be getting a new sequel. Other codename entries are less surprising, like Rhode Island, which is possibly the upcoming PC port of The Last of Us Part 2. Jesse, what do you think?
It's a mix. There definitely seems to be some interesting stuff when you're actually on the publisher's page, but then people keep going into like rando things that has like, I saw one that has Helldivers 2, Elden Ring 2, Bloodborne remake, GTA 6 and Starfield, all from the same publisher. So it definitely feels like there's going to be a real mix of actual stuff and then
how
weird
reliable
troll,
is any of this stuff? Yes,
weird
for sure.
troll listing. So I would call it very interesting, but it's going to be incredibly difficult to actually parse it out, unlike that NVIDIA leak, which was literally just, here's everything.
Yep, one for one, basically, across the board. Yeah, and there's no, like, Turok from Saber Interactive. Like, Turok could be a joke title, right? They could be like something they just throw in there. We really don't have any idea. The interesting ones are the ones that we probably knew because of something like the NVIDIA leak. Final Fantasy IX Remake still being in there. Of course, you know, that there was talks of them canceling games. I don't think they canceled Final Fantasy IX Remake, but even if they did, it probably would still be in the Epic Games database because they probably were testing it for other reasons in there, whatever. But this is, at the very least, interesting and fun to sort through. And hey, I would love a new Turok game. That'd be really cool. I have a real soft spot for Turok.
I do not.
Yeah, and most people don't. Most people do not have a soft spot for Turok.
I have a soft spot for Daikata, and I'm kidding. No one has a soft spot for that. I have a soft spot in my brain from where John Romero kicked my ass. That's about it.
Yes, he has owned me in that game repeatedly. It's like Turok's one of those ones where it's just I didn't know what a shooter should feel like on the N64, so I played it and I was like, this is fine. And I don't know, something about its setting and style was pretty cool. And then eventually they have like Turok 2 and 3, and you get weird weapons like the cerebral bore that can find people's brains and drill into it or whatever.
There were things I liked about it, but I had done enough PC gaming by then.
Yes, for sure.
So it's kind of like a lot of people that came into Halo the first time, like, holy shit, this actually feels kind of okay. I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it's for a console and for a controller, like these analog sticks are finally kind of good. So when that's what like, yeah, it just feels good.
But I think a new Turok could be very cool. They could really make that work. Yes, especially
I like Saber's work.
Me too. They seem to understand it. I think Saber is also. I believe the leader of Saber is one of those older guys that was like in charge of a Doom for a while. I'm trying to place his name, but yeah. Either way, it's the kind of thing where you can update that. Even if they did it like the retro boomer shooter style, that could be interesting. Like N64 boomer shooter style, which like hasn't been done too much. But I would hope for like just make a brand new Turok that is, Unreal Engine. That would be really cool looking or whatever. But
realistic dinosaurs, so they all have feathers.
Exactly, 100% accurate dinosaurs. Finally, this is cool. Epic Game Store. Not too surprising that's not super locked down, right?
No, they're everything about it feels like early Steam. Because people always forget, people are used to Steam just being the thing, even though back when it was new, people actually kind of hated it because like, well, why do I want to have everything? I don't want to have this launcher. I have the disc, or I have I have the thing. Why do I need this whole UI? And they rebuilt it a bunch of times. It's way better now, even though I personally hate it, but that's because I'm always working with early beta versions of stuff that are just broken and drive me insane.
Yep.
But yeah, it is the de facto for a reason, and Epic's always going to be playing catch up. So
and they're not even really trying to catch up, because I think when they look at how they spend their money, the return on investment for improving the user experience is probably very low. They're like, people don't think about that when they're choosing where to buy a game. And when they do think about that, you're right. It's so far ahead on Steam that it's just not worth it. But that said, a spokesperson for Epic said the company has since patched the store overnight to prevent further data scraping. We released an update tonight, so third-party tools can't surface any new unpublished product titles from the Epic Game Store catalog. They explained to Kotaku in an email. Yep, and that's probably going to be the end of that. We probably won't get too much more, although who knows? Maybe someone finds a new exploit now that they know that this is possible. If
you get those nerds really digging in, it's hard to stop them.
Does the fact that there is no Final Fantasy Tactics among this, or maybe there was, but I didn't see anybody mention finding Final Fantasy Tactics. Does that worry you that maybe that's not happening?
This feels so slipshot, like just incomplete, like things just being thrown up.
Agreed.
Who knows why or where, that I wouldn't read too much into it, other than it's really neat to get reconfirmation that things might still have existed at some point.
Right. That's my reading as well. It's like, just because something isn't here, that's not indicative of anything. That, like you said, slipshot, scattershot, it's who knows why some games get put on Epic Game Store super early for testing or whatever. But yes, that there's no reason to assume that would mean that something isn't happening if it isn't here. All right. Up next, that big Nintendo Direct everyone's waiting for is probably next week. This is also from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. It wouldn't be Summer Game Fest and the ghost of E3 season without a big Nintendo Direct. Previously teased for June, it now looks like the big Switch showcase could happen as early as next week, thanks to a suspicious early announcement from Among Us maker Innersloth. Back in May, Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa announced that the company would be holding a June Direct, as it does every year, to showcase games coming to Switch in the second half of 2024. He stressed that while Nintendo will begin sharing details on the console's successor in the next 9 months, nothing about the rumored Switch 2 would be revealed during the upcoming live stream. It now seems like the Nintendo Direct is probably targeting a June 18th stream. That's according to a YouTube video for an upcoming update to multiplayer murder sim Among Us that was seemingly accidentally uploaded and published ahead of the schedule before being taken down again. Copies of the video, which debuts new roles for the popular pandemic-era party game, are still available, and the contents were reported on by Go Nintendo. This sounds right about me. Being at Summer Game Fest, there's lots of like rumors bouncing back and forth. I would say that this sounds about accurate, that there would probably be a Nintendo Direct next week. Now, I don't know for sure, but based on everything I heard, and yeah, this lines up. And also, it just kind of makes some sense from the perspective of, they said there would be one in June. Yeah, I guess it could be super late in June, but next week sounds right. Why wouldn't they just go for it? Kind of get on the back end of Summer Game Fest and take it from there. But yeah, did this sound right to you? And what are you expecting?
Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, you're
guaranteed.
Smart guy. Smart guy. Yeah, 100%.
I do think this will be the only thing that Jeff doesn't try and throw as part of Summer Games Fest, because he didn't ever have them listed.
Yeah.
I wonder if he would.
Yeah, right. I always wonder what those relationships look like. I wonder if he's like, just walks around eggshells when it comes to Nintendo, so as to not poison any future potential participation from them that is more official.
They weren't a listed partner, so I would expect it. I'm just always curious. He'll probably at least tweet it, but it won't be like on his channel.
He'll tweet it from the Game Awards, account, right? Yeah, that sort of thing. And
put up his poll, see how people liked it.
Right, exactly.
That sounded bad at first. Put up a poll, not
Jeff
his
Keighley
poll.
needs to stop doing that everywhere. I tell you.
I know. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, let me put the headlines up, everybody. Thank you. It's a tough job remembering how to run a show.
When we do our news one, I always make sure I have them right away, because boy, does it make timestamps easy.
Oh yes, exactly. And Sean always mentions that as well. I'm like, yeah, my bad. Yeah. So yes, a Nintendo Direct probably next week, June 18th makes sense. I don't know if this Among Us thing guarantees that. People, so the thinking here is Among Us has been at Nintendo Directs before, announcing content that would often drop that day. And so the idea of like having shadow dropped content, why wouldn't they once again go to Nintendo Direct? Obviously, I think Among Us does pretty well on Switch. And I think that that's a big part of that, is that that audience does show up for these things, and Nintendo likes having them in that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's 100% what is happening here. And at the same time, like I said, no guarantee that these two things are linked, that they could be unrelated. That said, I still think Nintendo Direct next week makes some sense. And then you're right, Metroid Prime 4 is still my big hope. Like, that's what I'm hoping we see.
If it's still this gen, you would think, because from then on, it becomes Switch 2.
Well, okay, at the very least, this Nintendo Direct, like, coming out of this, if it doesn't have Metroid Prime 4, they need to say something about Metroid Prime 4 and not being on Switch 1, right? Like, they can't, because the way people are operating right now is under the assumption, because they haven't said otherwise, that it's coming to Switch 1. So if that's no longer the case, they have to say something, right?
No, they're Nintendo.
Yeah, they don't have to do anything, right? That whole phrase of Nintendo has to. Every time I say it, I'm like, nope, no, they don't.
And it's your fault.
Yeah,
that they don't. They don't have to.
They don't have to do anything. That said, man, I still, like in the recent weeks, I have very much turned to. I think Metroid Prime 4 is still Switch 1.
I hope so.
We see
really like
Direct.
Metroid Prime.
It gets a release date for later this year, and that's the big holiday game.
When does the thread go up on Reddit now that you've confirmed it?
I have not confirmed shit. You watch your mouths, Reddit, Gaming Leaks.
The amount of times Nick will say something and he's just guessing or hoping, and then I friggin' see a thread. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Every time.
And I have to I know the moderators there. I'm like, I have to tell them, no, that wasn't a leak. That was just him hoping.
Yep. No, I've reached out to them before. I'd be like, no, please, just this one, please, no. I don't need this on me. Beyond that, it's like, all those GameCube Wii remasters that have been, or Wii U remasters that have been thrown out there. It's time for like the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. I hope those happen. Again, that's
I want
also
a new
discussion.
Kid Icarus.
That or the remaster of that 3DS Kid Icarus would be great, because I never really played that, and now everyone seems to like that game, but it's hard to go back and play that on the 3DS. So yeah, put it out here instead after updating it.
They shut the store off there. You can't even go buy it.
Right, exactly. No such thing as the H shop either. All right, let's move along here before taking a break. Let's hit this one. No, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is not 300 gigabytes. This is from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. Rain falls, wind blows, and Call of Duty games tend to be very large downloads at launch. Last week, it looked like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was about to break a few records, as reports surfaced of it having a huge 300 gigabyte install size. It turns out that the estimated file size was technically incorrect, as the Call of Duty Update's social media account explained that the pre-order pages did not accurately represent the real download size. Black Ops 6 can be 300 gigabytes in size, but only if players install Modern Warfare 2, 3, Warzone, and all relevant content packs and all localized languages combined alongside it. So this is a byproduct of Call of Duty becoming like Call of Duty HQ, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you can have all this stuff installed.
And it is funny. This is part of Call of Duty HQ, but it's the first one where your skins won't carry over, and people are kind of pissed.
Right. That is a bit frustrating, but it's also like it always felt like lucky that skins had transferred for quite some time, right?
I imagine the licensing around that is a nightmare. So getting as much as you can is all I would expect. I mean, as a consumer, I would want it to all just work all the time. But as someone in coverage now, I'm like, yeah, I can only imagine how ridiculously tough this is. And this is also the first one you have to be online to I seemingly to keep file size down even more. You have to, because they always had the streaming tech for textures, right. But now like it's mandatory. Like for playing single player, you must be online.
So wait, they're streaming from the cloud textures? What was that what you're saying?
Yeah, they've had that in the previous ones where if you're online, you get higher quality textures. Because I was looking at the textures in the actual video in 4K. I was like, Jesus Christ, these are very high fidelity for Call of Duty game. How big is this install going to be? Then saw the things about 300 gigs. It was like, oh, but then saw that no, you have to stream them in because otherwise it would have been way too big. Yeah, by itself.
Right. That makes some sense. To me, I'd have to look into that more because I'm like a little curious about it. Well, I have you. Maybe you've paid attention to this with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Call of Duty 24 : Black Ops 6. How does it work on Game Pass? I saw there's some cute confusion here, and I think this is the thing that was that I was hearing about that was leading me to think that maybe there would be a shift in how the tiers worked for Xbox Game Pass, and now it's like technically kind of how it's happening, but it also makes sense, right? Where like base Game Pass, like Game Pass console without Xbox Live Gold or whatever they call it now, you only get the single player campaign. Is this right? Do you know how this works?
I mean, yeah, that's the way it is for every game that's on Game Pass, because when it's Game Pass, so you have Game Pass Core, which is play online and you get 30 or something games. Then there's Game Pass Console, which is you just get the 400 plus games, but you can't play them online.
Where you cannot.
So that's everything. So I think for people who maybe haven't been in the ecosystem as much, the thought of, I'm only getting the single player is like, well, yeah, that is all that has ever given you. Right. Yes. You've only ever gotten the single player and now it's like they're console. They're
just not going to let you access this thing you wouldn't be able to use anyhow. Is basically all that's happening here.
It's just because they're all separate DLCs in Call of Duty, unlike other games where it's just like, I've loaded up Evil West and now I want to play it online co-op. Oh shit, it's going to say you don't have Game Pass Core, or it might even be old enough to say you don't have Gold. So
yep. So
it's not new. It's just you've got the confusing tiers for people just because it's core for online and they don't want to give up that money. It is console, PC, or ultimate. Right. PC gets you everything because they obviously could never start charging for online PC, or there would be a riot. But you want everything. It's just the same thing as always. If you want this game and you want to play it online on an Xbox, you get Ultimate.
Right. So Ultimate is the tier to get Call of Duty as you understand it. And then if you want the single player campaign, it'll be there in console. You're right. Yeah. The matrix is what makes it confusing, right? Where you can look at core and be like, wait, what's happening here? Why is the other thing got this? Okay, whatever. So yes, Ultimate as always if you want to play online. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, a lot more to get into, including a Mike Minotti preview for Dragon Age the Veilguard after this. Oh, that's the wrong button, and this thing won't go away. Windows is breaking on me, everybody. Okay, OBS stopped responding again. Give it a second.
It must have, that scene might have a really big file. It takes a while to load.
It is just breaking on me. That's all there is to it. All right. Let's create a clean spot for Sean to bring us back in right here. All right, we're back, and let's get right back into it with Dragon Age the Veilguard looks better than its trailer. This is from Mike Minotti at GamesBeat. EA showed off Dragon Age the Veilguard during the recent Xbox game showcase with a CG trailer that scared some fans off with its irreverent tone and stylized visuals. People were saying Fortnite Dragon Age, which not a great thing to say. Well, during Summer Game Fest, I saw a live gameplay demo from the first hour of the game. And while I was not a fan of the CG trailer, the offhand demo was impressive. While the trailer had a vibe and tone that felt a bit more Fortnite than Dragon Age, the actual game looks more like what fans expect. It's a prettier, flashier version of Dragon Age Inquisition. That's honestly underselling the Veilguard. The graphics and character animations are immensely impressive. Honestly, the actual game looks better in motion than that pre-rendered trailer. The intro has the player characters traveling in an advanced magical city. This is the most visually impressive locale I've ever seen in a Dragon Age game, and a demon invasion soon throws the city into chaos. The game is vibrant and colorful, but it's not cartoony. You fight through the Horde with Varric, a dwarven character familiar to Dragon Age fans, and while he keeps his familiar irreverent side, the game still manages a serious tone. Again, if that trailer made you worry that the Veilguard will be some kind of Marvel-esque quip fest, seeing the actual game will make you feel better. The story is presenting big stakes that characters are taking seriously. I've heard this from a lot of people. I'll say a lot of the previews from people who have seen this hands-off gameplay demonstration, much more positive. In fact, very positive in many places. There's still some who are skeptical, and it does seem to be sort of that. Final Fantasy 16 is maybe not exactly right, but I think it's similar to, like, people have been like, this looks very action-focused, very God of War a little bit in some ways, with this game specifically, Dragon Age the Veilguard. And I think some Dragon Age fans are like, hey, I just got done playing Baldur's Gate 3. That would have been a better direction than this. But it's like, okay, yes, I think that is fine to feel that way. This game was probably never, ever going to be that. So as it's presented, I think the game, as Mike describes it here, and many of the other previews are describing it, sounds better than that trailer that people are really worried about, right?
That's a mass market trailer to try and pull people into something. They don't have it numbered generally for a reason in these things. Like, they want people to feel like they can just hop in and, wow, look at it, it's got a Bowie song cover and it's all bright and colorful. But they had a similar, no, not as bright and colorful, but one of the main trailers for Inquisition was like very pop music focused and stuff like that, and people lost their shit. And on the whole, this definitely feels more Mass Effect than anything has before, and I think it makes sense with that being their next game, because you are essentially jumping right into that one or alongside this, so sharing a lot of tech and whatnot would make sense.
That's right.
As a huge fan of Claire Obscure Expedition 33,
right,
and it's
the other biggest game announced at Summer Game Fest, yes.
And it's returned to like this really interesting looking turn-based. I am a little sad that Dragon Age is getting further away from that, but I do think it is more of a mass market appeal, being an action RPG.
I played several hours, maybe more than 15 hours of Dragon Age Origins. It was like live action or real-time combat with pausing, right? That's how it worked.
It has been so long since I played. I know it wasn't full turn, but it's like the active thing. Jesus Christ, it has been way too long since I played. But
Veilguard has the active pause. Chuktowski's saying.
You pause and you actually get your choices, and it looks a lot like the power wheel in Mass Effect. Very similar.
All right, and people in chat are saying yes, real time combat with pausing is what Dragon Age Origins was. Listen, I would not envy anyone who's a combat designer for an RPG right now, or in like the last 5 years. I think going forward, people are gonna be like, look, Baldur's Gate 3 made it work. Please let us just do it how we want going forward. I think people will be able to make that argument a little bit easier. But when this game was getting pitched, that was a tough time to be like, what does an RPG combat system look like? I think that's probably going to be okay. But people are, you're right. They're worried it's more Mass Effect.
Yeah, and Baldur's Gate 3 was a unicorn, as people are massive fans of it. Like, it was a very specific set of circumstances that led to Larian and their own engine being entirely built for that. Like, it was just, they were working Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, getting better and better, and then Baldur's Gate 3 hit, and they just had everything hit, and they had a long public development cycle in early access, and then, they were able to do something most others really are not, especially at an EA. Like, it's just never going to work there for them with the way they do stuff.
So let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think that this is going to be one of those situations where a lot of the critics play this game and enjoy it because we are bouncing from game to game and are like, there's a lot of people whose whole identity is BioWare and specifically Dragon Age, and more power to them. I hope that this game is what they need, but my gut here tells me that this is going to be a good game that a lot of people like, and that the Dragon Age fans might easily reject and have a hard time coming to grips with. It's like one of those situations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it will. The shifting gameplay might push some away, but if the characters and the writing are good and the story goes in a way they care for, I think it can overcome that.
Right.
So that'll be the big test.
You're right. That will be the thing that actually tells the tale. Is if
they killed Bianca, not Dan Reichert's wife, the crossbow.
Of course, yes. I think that my hope here is that you're right. That if the characters and the writing come together and they can tell a strong story that the fans are hoping for and that they've been thinking about, and it delivers on some of those points, you're right. They'll probably see through some of these minor gripes, or what hopefully will turn into minor gripes. In the meantime, this is definitely a game that was always primed for this puddle news, right? This is something they waited a long time for, didn't necessarily know that they would get. And now that it's here, there's a lot of anxiety about, is this the thing that I was hoping it would be? And everyone's going to hone in on every bit of evidence that says this is why you should be worried about this game. That's just human nature. We've seen it a million times. So hopefully it comes here and most people are pleased with it. But I think it's a good sign to me right now that most of these previews that we've seen from people who have seen the game in action, for the most part, pretty glowing, right?
Yeah, it's like, it is one of those fandoms that's just so into it that as long as it still feels like Dragon Age in the conversations and the character development and writing, I think they'll move along with the gameplay if the gameplay is fun. Like, as long as it's decent fun, because it's not like turn-based combat is like the most dynamic, super fun thing that pulls people in. And I don't think action RPGs push most away, especially if you can make them easy or hard, depending on what you find more enjoyable.
All right, let's move along here. We're finally getting details on Skate 4, including custom socks and Tim Robinson. This is Raleigh Welsh at Polygon. The fourth game in EA's cult skateboarding series, formerly known as Skate 4, now simply called Skate, is finally starting to come into focus 4 years after it was announced. And that's in a matter of speaking, fittingly for a game which took an unusual route to becoming a reality, and which is quite a departure from its predecessors. EA is also tackling the marketing for the game a little bit differently. Instead of a flashy trailer highlighting the new game's features, EA confused and delighted everyone by dropping a live-action sketch starring I Think You Should Leave's Tim Robinson into Friday's Summer Game Fest. In the skit, Robinson plays Richie Dandel, an executive at M Corp, the fictional corporation that previously owned and ran the city of Vansterdam, in which Skate is set. Robinson denies that M Corp is leaving San Vansterdam, while employees flee, cry, and shred documents behind him. This is all great fun and backed up by the official story so far, by the blog post, as well as a gloriously dated M Corp website. But what about the, game? Fortunately, the developers at Full Circle, a remote-only game studio formed by EA specifically to make Skate, followed up the Robinson sketch by lifting the lid on the current state of the game in a blog post and an accompanying development update video. Skate, as previously announced, will be a free-to-play, live service skating MMO for PC and console, but it doesn't have a release date yet. There's quite a lot of details in the post in the video. None of it all that surprising. Full Circle is iterating on the Skate series' signature flick-it control scheme and using new physics and animation technologies and going big on player customization. One of the most exciting tidbits is a quick drop system that gives players the freedom to customize the city itself, adding rails to balconies to enhance trick potential and things like that. You could do this in multiplayer in real time and then challenge other players to try out your creations. Throwdowns are a way to instantly challenge other skaters as they roam around the deserted city turned into a giant skate park. Yeah, I think that this all still sounds pretty cool. But I think a lot of these are the details we've been hearing for a while, and that not much has changed. But we're 4 years into, like, really, I think when this game was announced, was like just getting started.
Let's start building a team.
Yes, it was. This is not. The game has been in development for 4 years as we normally understand it, right? This is like 4 years of a team just getting put together and starting something. So we're not quite as deep in as it might feel. And at the same time, it's like, it's this skating online multiplayer version of this franchise. it could also come out sooner than we're realizing at this moment too, because I think it could launch in like something like early access, especially since it's free to play. But how are you feeling about it? Because I'll say that based on what they're describing so far, what we've seen, the tone that they're going for, I'm pretty excited. I think it looks pretty interesting. What do you think?
I think they should call it Skatestiny.
There it is. Yes, like go on some raids. Yeah.
I'd be into it. Like, I really enjoyed the Skate games because they were where Tony Hawk was the arcadey, I'm gonna max out scores while grinding away to music as I'm really bored after school. Like, Skate was the I'm just going to pummel the shit out of this guy and laugh like an idiot.
Yes.
And getting that feeling with a bunch of other people, especially if I can mute them by default so I don't have to hear them unless I'm their friend. I'd be way into that. I doubt I'd ever spend a penny on it because I don't care about Billabong or different skateboards or Jinkos or anything. But as a pickup and just fool around for a bit, free to play thing, I would be all in.
Yeah. Can't hide when it chest says I just don't get how it's pre-alpha. I don't think whenever a developer says to the public that something is alpha, beta, pre-alpha, pre-alpha, I don't know if any of that is real when they're talking to us. They might have internal markers of how they define that that is separate from when they put it into marketing. I think as soon as it gets into marketing, it is washed and turned into something else. I think they say that mostly to imply that what you're seeing...
Don't yell at us.
Yes, what you're seeing may not show up in the final game. Please don't yell at us. That's exactly what that is, right?
It's like pre-production versus production, where some companies' pre-production is their production, and production is just putting all that stuff together. Right at the end. Like, you never know. That's always, it's never like 1-to-1. It's kind of like, how do you do a review? How do you score a review? There's no system for it. It's however you do it, essentially. I know that we saw that very complicated, this is how you should score games thing. And I was like, it's still just pulling a bunch of numbers out of thin air and at the end of the day. So
there's no like one way that everyone does these things. Every team's going to be different. At the very least, I'm glad that it seems like this is a game that can be like, hey, can we do something fun with the marketing? Yes. I'm glad that EA seems to get that this is something that they should take a few risks on instead of being like, Skate needs to like look like all our other games. So yeah, I don't know.
Make a big epic Skate score to a friggin', I don't know, We Will Rock You cover or some dumb shit.
Sad dad music, exactly. Or sad bastard music, I should say. We'll see like if we get more information on this game in the next year, because it's been a couple times now where we like get an update on it, and so a long time goes by without really hearing anything, or if we do hear something, it's a small blog post kind of saying the same things all over again. So I'm hopeful, but at the very least it seems like they are charging full steam ahead on the game, and it will eventually come out at some point. All right. Star Wars Outlaws can be finished in 30 hours, says the creative director. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Star Wars Outlaws players will be able to finish the game in about 30 hours, according to creative director Julian Garrity. In an interview with VGC following the game's big reveal at Monday's Ubisoft Forward Showcase, Garrity discussed how long the game will take to complete, as well as the decision to cut a significant feature from Massive's original vision for the title. Very, very early on, we decided that this is going to be a 25 to 30 hour Golden Path adventure, 50 hours or 60 hours for completionists, and that is for a guy with a family and a job, it's still a fair amount of time. But it's not Assassin's Creed epic 200 hours worth of gameplay, so that allows us to really focus on the detail. It allows us to focus maybe with a smaller team on executing something that is manageable. VGC also asked Garrity if Massive was able to put everything into the game that it wanted to originally, or if some aspects of its visions had to be compromised in any way. As a creator, I'm a big believer in setting an initial vision that's exciting, ambitious, and achievable, he said. It's super important to make sure that everybody who's working on the game is working in the same direction towards the same goal. On The Division, The Division 2, and Star Wars Outlaws, the vision has been more or less respected. I mean, 95% respected. Some things are added and a few things have been changed and removed, but very, very little. So, for example, removed, we wanted swimming. Like the first few iterations of the pitch we did, we'd have loved to have had swimming. It's not possible, animation said. It's not possible in terms of scope. So, okay, we can live without that. We'll do without it. There's plenty of other things we can explore. So you heard it, no swimming in space. It's basically unplayable, right?
It's like South of Midnight, but they have an in-game reason why she doesn't know how to swim. So
do you think they'll have an in-game reason here? Like, right, you just put a big space monster in the water, right?
There's only 4 planets, so yeah, depending on the, they're very big though, but so depending on how many bodies of water, they may not just have had any bodies of water you can really get close to.
Right, that's true. Right, there'll be some puddles, and that'll be the biggest thing that you can get near. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
30 hours, that's the right like length for a game like this, right?
PR saying 30 hours means I'll beat it in about 18.
Exactly, right. These things are often it's the opposite of From Software, where they say 30 hours and then I play for 150.
They gave me 5 days on Elden Ring and said it'll take you like 50 hours, and it was 90. Yes. So it was like, thanks. But yeah, with Ubisoft, it is very much their PR is incredibly nice, but they're always very conservative, and I think they told me the Lost Crown would be like 20 to 25, and I beat that in about 12.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So, this is the director of the game, but he's still being filtered through PR. They probably like, listen, here's the numbers. Err on this side.
If you think it's 25, add more.
Exactly. Add a few more hours. For one, it's like it makes it sound beefier. And it's a big round number with a 0 at the end. That's
have
what
to go to the bathroom while they're playing. Like, it'll add up. They won't even notice that they wasted that much time.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's like, what is this really saying? He's trying to say a couple things here, that it's a very big game, but it's not so big you're going to be overwhelmed. And that 30-hour number definitely gets that across to me. Like, that's the number you try to say when you're like, this is a very big game, but it's not going to take over your whole life. And
Valhalla was the real exception. I know a lot of people look at it like Odyssey. Origins, you could beat in 25. Odyssey, you could beat in 35. And then Valhalla, you could beat in 75. Like, that was the exception in the super long one. Like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, one of the best looking games ever, and I don't care about Avatar, and it's really good. I beat that in like 18 or 20. Like, none of their stuff in general, outside of like The Division, where it's literally like, okay, you beat it in 12 hours, now go play another 300, which Division 2 also getting a bunch of new content, and they confirmed Division 3. I'm all in.
All right. Did Masahiro Sakurai consult on Def Jam Fight for New York? Well, kind of. This is from Damian McFerrin and Jack Yarwood at Time Extension. EA's Def Jam video games were certainly something. The notion of EA teaming up with a famous rap label feels like something that could only come from the same decade that gave us 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. So the best decade. Def Jam Vendetta kicked things off in 2003, followed by nothing bad happened that decade. Followed by Def Jam Fight for New York 2004, Def Jam Fight for New York The Takeover 2006, and Def Jam Icon in 2007. All of these games, with the exception of Icon, were developed by Japanese studio Aki Corporation, now known as Sensofia. I didn't know that. Did they change their name? Famous for its wrestling games. Those of you who recall the game might remember seeing a familiar name in the EA Thanks section of the in credits. Kirby and Smash Brothers creator Masahiro Sakurai. As noted by the utterly peerless Gosoiku on Twitter, apparently, Sakurai has previously mentioned that he has undertaken anonymous supervision work on a wide variety of video games. Was Fight for New York one of those games? Investigating this, we spoke to one of our shadowy industry contacts who told us that this could potentially be related to a wrestling title which Nintendo of America was planning on developing with Aki. Rumor has it that Nintendo was exploring the possibility of using the lapsed pro wrestling IP for this venture, and while our contact isn't sure the plan ever made it beyond the walls of Nintendo of America, there's a slim chance it could have involved Sakurai at some point. We didn't want to take that for gospel, though, so we reached out to the Def Jam Fight for New York art director, Daryl Ansimo, to try and find out more. He told us that at the time Fight for New York was being developed, Sakurai was briefly independent and visited the EA Japan offices for what he suspects may have been a roadshow. This is like when developers are working on a game and they go see a bunch of publishers and developers and investors to be like, hey, look at my game. Do you want to help me make it? We saw Kojima do that after he left Konami, right? I recall that I had to attend a smaller breakout meeting with him in Tokyo where the group was discussing fighting game design. I remember being very impressed by how he was able to visually articulate game concepts. He did this very passionate whiteboard sketches and had a mastery of PowerPoint-style storyboard animation circa 2004, which was pretty important for fundraising at the time. That's pretty much all I can recall. I'm not sure about the greater context of the meeting with him. Stan Chow might know more. And then Stan Chow apparently said, as far as I remember, Sakurai came and gave a general presentation to the Def Jam team about the mechanics of fighting games. I don't recall him specifically consulting on or giving feedback on Def Jam Fight for New York. And that seems to be the likeliest scenario, that the team was just like there and was like heard something they liked and maybe put that in the game or something like that. But interesting. It's one of those stories where like, oh yeah, the people like really do just, it's a small industry and people pop up all over the place. And Sakurai, it's technically still like independent, right? He just works as like Sora Limited, and Nintendo hires that company, which is basically just him. So always been independent.
I always like stories like that, where it's just this little thing in the background, but also, Jeff, huge breaking news.
Oh yeah,
Paddington in Peru. Paddington in Peru trailer's out.
Yes, the Paddington in Peru trailer's out now, everybody. I did see that was going to happen. I'm very excited. Is it the same director as Paddington 2?
I don't remember.
I hope so. We could look at this.
I think it's at least the same writer, Simon Barnaby of Mighty Boosh fame.
Okay,
Paddington,
very cool.
I got to look it up. I got to see, is it the same guy? It's got Olivia Colman in it again. Oh yeah, she's on. No, this is director Douglas Wilson.
Yeah, that director was busy on Wonka. Okay, no wonder everyone liked that Wonka movie. I've not seen that yet. I will watch that.
It was better than it should have been.
Yes, that seems to be what everyone's saying. No,
it was
Sally
charming.
Hawkins either. Okay. Okay.
It's in Peru.
Paddington's going to Peru. Same writer, at least. A lot of the cast is returning. In the meantime, I will watch Wonka. Everybody, I promise. All right, let's see here. Last story. Konami hopes Metal Gear Solid Delta could bring back the series, at least according to suggestions in a new ad. This is from Willow Rowe at Kotaku. The upcoming release of Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, the remake of 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3, marks a major turning point for Konami's stealth action series. Due to come out before the end of this year, Delta will have a 9-year drought, or will end a 9-year drought since 2015's Phantom Pain, which we don't count Survive. And while Delta isn't a true new entry in the series, an ad for the game teases that it might open the doors for more Metal Gears to make a major comeback. After showing off Delta's updated graphics and unique mechanical additions, Konami released Metal Gear Solid Legacy Series Part 2 on YouTube. Hosted by David Hayter, the original voice actor for Snake, the deep dive video mostly serves as a refresher on things we saw during the Xbox showcase, but it also features an interview with producer Noriaki Akamura. This is where things get interesting. Akamura says that one of the hopes for Delta is that it will help players to judge whether the new team is right for the job of keeping Metal Gear going. That mission is twofold. Firstly, Akamura explains that the reason for Delta's existence was that Konami noticed new gamers weren't familiar with the series. In tandem with the Master Collection, the new Metal Gear team wanted to preserve the series past for new generations. Delta will act as an introduction to the series for new gamers, which makes sense considering it is, by in-world measurement, chronologically the first game in the series. Secondly, the new team has also been entrusted with the future of further entries that could take the form of a series of remakes of past games, a strategy that's been a success for Capcom with its Resident Evil remakes. But more enticingly, it could mean that if Delta performs well and the development team delivers the projects Konami is hoping for, an entirely new story in the series could be on the way. How are you feeling about this now? Personally, I'm like, that Metal Gear Solid Delta trailer looked pretty good. I'm hopeful, but boy, I think people are going to have to play it to really know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it'll come down to how does it feel? How does it look like? I'm going to get chat mad. I don't like Kojima's writing. I like his ideas, but like the actual going through the story and most of the time, like I wish Metal Gear Solid 4 was 3 times longer with gameplay type of thing. Like I think that was always my favorite thing was the gameplay innovations those games would have. And I would really not be that into the stories especially after the first time. So redoing them, having them all play better, and actually getting 4 out from underneath the PS3 only place that it finds itself throughout history would be really cool. As far as making a new one, I have no idea. Like there's no way to tell what are their writing chops, what are their directing chops.
We will not be able to assess that from this game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a big part because while I might not like the writing, like the actual directing of scenes and the camera movements and all that stuff was always so good, especially for the technology that you had at the time. So it's like I have from seeing a very pretty looking remake running all the old audio and everything, I have no clue if they'd be good or not for making something new.
Yep, I at the very least, I think I'm interested in seeing them try. It will probably not work out, but I think Metal Gear is at least one of those canon entries in the video game world that even if they move on without Kojima, that there is probably something worth seeing there. don't make another Survive, obviously, but a Metal Gear 7, Metal Gear Solid 7, or like a reboot of when Metal Gear became Metal Gear Solid, do a new Metal Gear blank and start there and kind of start a new timeline maybe or something like that. That could be interesting.
And bring back Snatcher.
And then bring back Snatcher. Absolutely. I tried to play that thing on that little Game Boy Advance SP thing I got.
You got to be careful. You can't stream that one because the daughter's 17 and you see her boobs. It's like, Jesus Christ. Come on.
Kojima, what were you thinking? Yeah, what he's always thinking. All right. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Last story, real quick. A bunch of PS Plus games came out. Things like Monster Hunter Rise, Football Manager 2024, Crusader Kings 3. I'm going to read this whole title. Monster Energy Supercross 6 Championship, the official video game. I think I missed a couple things in there. But yes, a handful of other things after us. Anno 1800, a bunch of cool stuff is in there.
I see Police Simulator Patrol Officers, a game I gave a 2.
Yes, Police Simulator Patrol Officers, a game.
Maybe it's gotten a lot better since then, but I gave it a 2 out of 10.
3 out of 10.
And I was feeling generous.
Okay, well, everyone can see that for themselves. Far Cry 4 on PS4. Lego The Hobbit. Man, they made the Hobbit Lego game. Lego The Incredibles, and then some PSVR games. Okay. Also, a note here. It says, Jeff, please let the people know that the audio and video has been mostly fixed on the SGF and Xbox talkovers. Sorry it took so long. Love, Sean. I saw people saying, like, why is the audio always bad on talkovers? It's like a consistent thing. It's because it's so inconsistent. This time we were in a new place with a different audio engineer who was busy working on GameSpot, who set up an interface that we would never, ever use. The audio would not work when we were capturing it from the PC. So while we were talking over SGF, jam patched in from another PC. It's just, I have people to yell at, basically, is what I'm saying.
Engineering is a nightmare.
Yes.
And depending on schedules and budgets, it can just be really hard to get right.
And it's just, if we had some consistency, we could fix the same problems over and over. It's that there's new problems every time. Okay. And then also, let's see here in Comic Sans, also let them know that the at night shows will be heading to the podcast feeds starting today. Sincerely yours, Jan.
Those are some nights.
Those were some nights indeed. That WWF Attitude game's still not been found. So I think it's embedded in a wall somewhere. Watch out for Greg Miller, everybody. Okay, that does it for the news. While I get the poll question set up, Jesse, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
You can find me at xboxera.com. Our links are all at the top, youtube.com/xboxera. We are doing our first ever subathon on Friday to try and help pay for John, who went to Summer Games Fest, and then all of us 5 going to Gamescom. So we're doing a big old, please help us afford this because we're very poor stream on Friday on our YouTube channel. So be there or we'll be square.
Good luck. And I'll tune in and try to give you guys some help. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see.
It's going to be gone for like 40 hours knowing us.
Yeah. Well, hey, that sounds like a good time.
The plan is like 4 a.m. Eastern because John's starting it in Britain all the way up through the podcast, which is Saturday night.
Ooh. All right. Sounds like fun. All right. New poll or the poll question from last week. Let's see here. What are you more excited about? All of the game announcements at Summer Game Fest or Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree? Erdtree with a very good showing at 40%, but 60% were more excited about every announcement at Summer Game Fest. That seems fair. Right now,
I just want Erdtree review code.
Now that I'm home, I am ready for Shadow of the Erdtree. Yes, same. Can't wait to be playing that game. It's out June 21st, so we'll see. But I am not playing it right now either. So I hope we get it soon. All right, new poll question. Let's see here. Rate the Summer Game Mess. This is like once again all of the game announcements and all of the shows from the past week. Do we give it an A, B, C, D, or lower? Just interested in you basically rating E3. How did you feel about it? How about you, Jesse? What would you give it?
For the indies alone, even before Xboxes, it was at least a B+ for me. Like there are so many things I'm interested in, and there's like 400 freaking things announced. So I would hope so, but I do think it's very much if you're in the bigger AAA mindset that the Xbox show probably carried it to at least a B for most people.
Yeah, I think I'm like B+, A-. I don't know what you know what it is. It's like I'm a Nintendo fanboy, so that's what it feels like it's missing. by the time if the Nintendo Direct happens next week, I will have considered that part of the summer game mess. And
your month of June,
exactly, the entire month of June. And if it delivers even a little bit, like a couple surprises, that'll probably put it over the top for me. But that's like a really strong B+, A-. I'm very happy with how things went. It continues to prove that to be a necessary component of how the games industry calendar works, and for that part alone, very happy with it. And then I think it seems like these companies are honing in on what makes sense for these showcases and how to
in the
present
next
them.
couple of years. I do think like PlayStation will catch back up, and they'll have reasons to have stuff. They'll probably have something in September because they have the rumored hardware and all that. But for like this time of year, with Nintendo, when they've got a new console, they'll have more reason to have big stuff. Like we're in that lull where PlayStation went super hard early on. They've got a few years of still plenty of stuff coming, but not the biggest hitters that people were used to for a while there, because they just kept going year after year after year. But that shit takes a long time. So now they're a little reloading. Nintendo doesn't have to reload. They've got 50 things in the chamber that they're just hold on to as long as they want. But most of that's waiting on their new hardware. So I think it'll pick up a lot next year.
I think you're right. I think it's like this was supposed to be kind of like when we were seeing a lull, and it kind of just rolled right into, well, there's going to be plenty next year, and here's a few things for this year, which is pretty good. And I hope all those games actually do come out next year. I think it'd be wild to see that actually come through, especially when a Switch 2 is launching.
Their mindset for Microsoft very much, I feel, is we have so much that don't give a date or a time frame until you know, not in the what we're hoping for territory anymore. So we'll see.
That's right. Let me check this. I'm pretty sure the embargo for this thing I could talk about is in 1 minute, but let me just double check. I'll type it into there. All right. Check this email. Should have a embargo time on it. Yeah, look at that. I could talk about it in about 30 seconds. All right. So we'll kill a little bit of time. Break it early. Here, I'm going to get out ahead of everybody. 30 seconds. At the very least, I think that when we were out there, everyone was there. Even people not showing games at Summer Game Fest or IGN Live. They had rooms at the JW Marriott. They were showing stuff behind closed doors. They were taking a lot of meetings. That makes me hopeful that it's like the sort of flag in the ground that there is a reason to come out to LA at this time of year is there, and as strong as it can be considering that E3 is dead. And also, Astrobot is Game of the Year. Oh my God, it is so goddamn good. I can't even, oh my God, it's so good. I am losing my mind from how good it is. Every 2 minutes, you're doing the funnest thing you've ever done in a video game. There was a part where you get you pick this little magnet thing, and they just have all these little shiny pieces of metal just getting attracted to you. And then there was like a big pile of balls, and you just ran into them, and it fell apart with such great physics. You got an inflatable suit that would make you basically do like this floaty jump, and then they put you way underwater and swimming underwater, and then you activated it, and it would shoot you out of the water. It's the best game I played this year, and I played like 20 minutes of it, maybe. It's incredible, Jesse. I can't wait. Also, hey, Lego Horizon Adventures, pretty fun, actually. It's actually pretty
Lego
good.
Games tend to be.
Yeah, it's like they know the style.
Traveler's Tales. It looks like one of theirs. But
it does look like one of theirs, yes.
Astrobot always sounded like, especially nailing the physics, the most Jeff Grubb game I could think of.
Yes, it was a very good time. Go to walk down into the PlayStation sort of area of Summer Game Fest, the Summer Game Fest campus. Walk in the room and just have like a couple people go like, "We're glad you're here to play Astrobot." I'm like, "Yes, you know why I'm here." And a couple PR people were like, "We were thinking about you when it got announced." And then I played the game, and I turned around, and first like me, Mike, and Dan were all kind of giving each other crap a little bit about like beating some of the more challenging levels. I think Dan struggled the most, so I don't think his chances are very good this time around of beating any times. They did say, and I believe I'm allowed to say this because they didn't say anything separate about a different embargo. There will be DLC free DLC that includes speedrunning levels. That won't be there at launch, but it'll come soon after as a free update. So,
nice.
Just very excited about that. But I stood up from playing and turned around, and one of the people, like one of the main guys on the team, was just like, when we are feeling down at the team, we play your reaction so that everyone can see it, and it picks everyone up, like to it being announced. And I'm like, yeah, listen, it means that much to me, so I'm glad to hear that. Boy, I love Astrobot. Very excited for that game. Easily the most anticipated game of the year for me right now, but far and away the most anticipated game, even more than Shadow of the Erdtree. It's just right there.
Even more than Infinity Nikki?
And barely. Listen, barely. Okay. It's right there.
All right.
Hey, that's just a little taste. We are going to talk more about what we saw at Summer Game Fest, because now embargoes are finally starting to let up. So we can talk about some of these things. I think we're going to do the plan is, at least the last I saw, honestly, people could have replied and said this is not a good idea. I think we're going to try to do a Bombcast Revengeance today. We weren't able to do a real Bombcast because we were doing, the weekend shows, the game GB at night all weekend. So instead we did like a small little placeholder, but we'll do a Bombcast Revengeance to talk about what we saw and played at Summer Game Fest itself. Try to record that live today and then put that up as soon as possible. So yeah. All right. Look forward to that. And then, Daikatana. I'll play some more of that, I guess. In the meantime,
the good and the bad.
Yeah, good and the bad. In the meantime, Jesse, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
All right.